Hi guys, hope all is well. Oh, excuse me. I'm gonna do a video about what I'm looking for this week. There was a couple of nice trades last week. I didn't really post too much last week, so apologies about that. But this week we'll just get back to it. So UK, um, UK 100. We actually sold off pretty hard last week. There we go. Yeah, last week we sold off pretty hard. Kind of wasn't like unexpected with everything that's going on at the moment. But potentially could see some lower pricing. So obviously we do have like a major break here on the 4 hour, and on the daily we have broken below. Obviously on the weekly I did just write a mental note that we didn't break on the weekly. Obviously that doesn't mean that going into next week we can just like push lower, and probably if we're going to take one weekly um point of liquidity from last week, it's either going to be the low or the high. Personally, probably think it's going to be the low, because we are kind of moving a bit bearish. And what I do kind of ultimately want to see is price come down into this 12 hour. We came pretty close to it, but I definitely think this could be acting as a form of liquidity for then price to push down and then actually run. So that's what I have in mind. So with the idea that I'm looking for price to kind of sell off and then go longer, that means I am waiting after break structure for a pullback. So I got a couple places where we could likely sell from. We do have this 4 hour zone in here. I'm mainly more so looking for the 50% of this point, and we have this super clean fair value gap in here, which is actually lining up with the inverted fair value gap behind it. I do only just have this as a potential target because I'm looking for a long. I am only just using this low as a target because for me, this is the first point where I'm looking for where price could actually react from. I mean, obviously, price could actually just take out this region, and then push lower. That is still valid, but I do want to see some price come into some discount, which is going to be up here before actually pushing down. You can see my fib levels are lining up really, really nicely with this zone. So any kind of shorts from that region is going to be nice. What I could maybe even do is we could even just take a straight sell and swing it, depending on how you guys feel about swing trading and things. Um, you can have, I mean, I'd probably break this position up, to be honest with you. So I'd do position here, I'd run that at the lows. And then if price does annoyingly want to maybe push up a little bit higher, then we can do this. If you're risking 0.5% per trade, then you can be doing 0.25%, 0.25% for a potential short. Now, again, you could really push and hold and have this lower. That's fine. You can either have your target here, you can even have your target down here. You could even swing a target all the way down there, which would be insane. So there are a couple nice options for sells up here if given the opportunity. But just for the beginning of the week, I do want to see if I can take out some longs. We did come into an area of demand in here, and we did have really nice reactions. So far, we had this 15-minute zone in here. You can see when London opened, we came up, we dumped down. This was our New York manipulation. We came up, we pushed, break a structure, we turned this supply now into demand. Prices now come in tested this zone. We have Asia low here going into London. You can see we took out this low and then we pushed, and you can see basically 8 o'clock London open, we have this fair value gap, and the open of the can or the beginning of the session, that fair value gap is the highest probable one, because at the beginning of a market open you have a pump of liquidity from the banks, and that is what causes these big fair value gaps. And you can see also we do have this zone in here which could be a nice breaker for us to be looking at. I'm pretty sure, does that line up with my 1 hourly entry? I mean, yeah, there we go. So I'm looking potentially to take this straight off just the 1 hour. I've already you people have asked me like, do I wait for lower time frame confirmations? And like I do, and what I usually do is I have like my one position here because this is a 1 to 3, and then like I'll get in on a 1 minute, and look for a smaller entry and just have like this lower targets. But going into next week, I really do want to see price come down. You can see market opened on Wednesday like at 12 o'clock at night, and there was no like rated liquidity. It's just it died and it pumped. So I really want to see this kind of breaker come back up and get tested. But I think we could come back down into here. We also have this 12-hour fair value gap, and you can see this wick is lining up exactly. You can see I've got 12-hour fair value gap, and that lines up exactly with 50% of this overall 1 hourly fair value gap. And whenever like things like this for me line up, that's looking like really nice to see. So I don't mind getting in an entry here. I don't mind getting in an entry here at the open, because even though it could be likely price could come back down to here and go higher, price could equally just like wick it and continue higher. But if price then does, that's my trade activated. If price comes into here, we have that rated liquidity, that little push break higher. That's when I'll look to get on a better entry here and push it higher. And if I did just, for example, have something like this, even if you had higher entries, that's already doubled your RR on, well, more than doubled your RR on your original trade. So first one's a 1 to 3, but just because it says a 1 to 3 doesn't mean I actually gain that. It's usually my R is slightly more. But the overall trade is what I like looking at. As long as you're looking on like a high time frame, high time frames always going to trump lower time frames, and I've been guilty of it myself in the past. Like in the 1 minutes you can get caught up in them, and it can throw you off. But as long as you've got your overall like idea, like if price like pushes down, then this trade's just invalid. It is what it is. But so far we've had London really super strong push pump. We haven't really done anything, only kind of create like relatively equal highs within here. And considering we have broken structure to the downside, I do want to just see a nice simple pullback. Excuse me. And then the continuation lower. So that's UK 100. That's actually does look quite nice for longs, intermediate longs, and also for the high time frame sells. But let's wait and see what we have going into next week. But both ideas and both pairs are looking really, really nice. Pound JPY, we are pushing so strong up because we had a massive sell-off. So weekly, we're bullish. I don't care what anyone says. Like, I know we had this big sell-off, but we're bullish. We manipulated, we didn't break. And then we have just start being pushing higher. We have a weekly fair value gap within here, which price has kind of just kissed into. 12-hour strong impulsive bull moves. We had this massive zone, which price has come in and tested, confirmed, amazing continuations. 1 hour, we have this zone down here, which price has come in and mitigated. That's really nice, clean to see. So we had super strong sells going in from with the news on Wednesday going into Wednesday, Thursday, then Friday we kind of started to push back up a bit now. Even though we did have this liquidity sweep here, that level 2000 for me is looking really, really nice. I do definitely think that we can raid. Just because we had a raid at the top of this doesn't mean that price is gonna shift in direction. So on the 1 hour, we had this big strong move down here, and this really big strong move down here. This is lining up with the first zone that I was looking for when London first opened. So going in from yesterday, New York, it died, and we created. Can you see on this hourly I've highlighted in blue that just strong straight down candle? Now, if I do this, this kind of lines up with my other entry that I'm looking for. So I'll break it down. When I was first looking for price. It had already pushed and broke higher. We were like here. And then as price was like pushing higher, I was looking for price down here to potentially tag me in, but we didn't, which is annoying. But what I do think could happen is that could act as resting liquidity, because I can imagine a lot of people are going to be looking at this exact same thing and this exact same setup. Also, we had this super clean fair value gap. We had displacement, breaker structure. We should have reacted in here and continued low, but you can see we didn't. We closed, we broke above. This is acting now as our volume in the market. So if I'm dragging this across, price now could react from this zone and continue high, because this is the point where we had this big fair value gap in the market and price could react from it. And you can see we do have a really, really nice zone in here. And I think we could just generally have one more run back up into 2,000 or 200,000. Price doesn't look, it looks stronger pushing up. I know we are coming into this point, but we had like a lot of liquidity here, which price didn't really take out. And when we had the news as well, or at this point, price came up, it came back down, and like we do have this point of liquidity. So I do want to see that this actually get taken. So I'm looking for the this 30-minute point. I do actually have my order actually here, and my take profit is 2,000. I think honestly, if price reacted from here, I wouldn't be surprised, but I am actually eyeing up more so this zone, because you can see this is our basically our London Open within here. So when price pushed first above this point, the the point that I was looking for, like I just mapped out down here, there was no test of this zone, and that makes me think more, excuse me, that price could come down and potentially do something like this. And then if that does happen, this is going to be acting as liquidity. You can see price come down again maybe, and then push higher. That's what I think, and we could run out this low. But equally, this is this is still a valid zone. We had the break structure continuation. We did raid. We did push. I just maybe think that that could potentially be a possibility that is on the cards. So let's keep it in mind. Obviously, we do look like we're bearish at this point, and I feel like this is where this can stump a lot of people out, because yes, we did break this, but this is just one like big sell candle, and after that price pretty much shot straight back up. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. You can see there was no liquidity taken, so I do definitely think continuations potentially higher would be nice to see. Euro pound, again, we did pump and break with the news last week. You can see we had 2 days of bearishness. Now I've been expecting all of this to get taken. All of this, I was looking for last week down in here for price. Where are we? No, sorry. Okay, let's just spoke about what we've done, because I'm getting myself lost. Okay, so price was generating this. You can see we swept this low, this big sell move. This swept this low. We have a lot of liquidity resting in the form of these highs. Also, just on the weekly, just to show you, we are coming into like a major zone where there's going to be a lot of orders in the market. We did take out this low, so we're filling whatever's in here. We have a weekly imbalance up here. So obviously, if we're looking at price, we have our lower low, lower high, lower low. I'm just looking for that lower high and then that lower low. and definitely a nice point for us is going to be, again, just these fair value gaps. You can see inverted fair value gap, prices tested in and around this zone before, so this is going to be a nice potential point for us to be looking from. Weekly open going into next week, you can see where that weekly high is. That is lining up with my entry. We pushed and continued. Oops, sorry guys. We pushed and continued higher, looking for my fib. We broke all of this structure. This is my high. This is my low. When I do my fib levels, you can see we are in and around here. Price is coming into this 50%, which is really nice equilibrium. But we have this low, which could expect to get run, and I think we could have something like this. Oops. What we didn't do is, again, in here we had this wick high. Asia came, we died, we pumped, took liquidity. Again, we have this Asia, we rolled, we pumped, we tested whatever's in here, and then we ran and we broke structure. So again, you can see Asia comes, no liquidity, we rolled and we dumped. So I think if price is gonna want to come back down, maybe it could be looking for something like this, just a run on this high. So yeah, but I'm not super, not that I'm not super confident on it, but I do like some of the other pairs that I am looking at over this one. UK oil had some nice trades on this last week, up into 74,000. Hang on one second. Up into 74, which was here really nice. Had the first trade within where are we? Yeah, within here. So I was looking for longs day before, price came back down and we ran into this zone. This zone was overall excuse me, within here, even though we did slightly run that low. I did have an order in, where did I have an order in? I had an order somewhere. Maybe I took it off straight off this hourly. Anyway, this took me out. It took me out anyway, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm still expecting for price to push higher. So we came in, didn't raid any of this, and we still have this high. London, we rolled. Going into London, you can see we had a nice strong reaction. Started to push, breaking above this high. We still had all of these highs as points of liquidity. We then had, excuse me, this 5-minute zone. That was my entry. What confirmed it? Rest in liquidity, or liquidity sell to buy, mitigated slightly off this high, and we started pushing up. One thing that was important for me is I was looking off, was it 10 minute or 5-minute? Yeah, it's a 5-minute. This, I didn't take this second entry, but you could have. Really clean 5-minute inverted fair value gap. You can see that in here. Inverted fair value gap. Why was that important? Mitigation, breaker structure, we're pushing higher. This is still an open zone. Price was running. All of these highs we pushed, we came down, boom, tested, and then we ran up into 74. We ran up into 74, 6 o'clock or 6:30, there was news, boom, that came up. So entry, long, stop below this low, up into 74, 1 to 3, nice, clean. I am expecting higher prices. Now, obviously, we are bearish, and we did come in and film a big point within here. I did want to see a nice reaction from 71, which is what we did get. No, excuse me. Sorry, guys. Just need to- Nice reaction in from 71. We had a breaker on the 4 hour. Yeah, 4 hour, we started to shift above this high. We have this zone in here, which is our little 4 hour breaker. So now there's been no liquidity sweep within the form of these highs, but if anything, we've got this inverted fair value gap, which I do want to see price get hit, which means I'm looking for 75, which price didn't take 75,000 to get run. So what is on the cards, excuse me, is we are looking for, this is our high, this is our low. We're looking for anything in within here to look to buy from. Now, when we break it down, there isn't actually too much. We do have this zone in here before the news, but equally, there is a little bit weak. Obviously, we could come in and fill this fair value gap again, that's fine. It depends on how you wanted to play it. If you wanted to, you could go straight off this 4 hour. I would personally have taken it off here. Why would I take it off here? Because on the hourly, this is where we had that mitigation of that's how to buy, or equally what you could do, you could break your order down, have one position here. Oh my god, what's going on? Yeah, one position here, make that halfway, and then another position just to cover it. Just probably looks a bit more nice, to be fair. So that one's 3.8, and that one is 5.3. So I do quite like doing trades like this, kind of similarly how I've done with pound yen, just because it does cover you, and you can break your orders up, and when you're kind of doing it that way. So UK oil, that could actually potentially be a nice one to look at if we go to H. 2H, yeah. See, what I'm really looking for is we had a break out of this zone. This was our demand that was holding, and then we then flipped that and went into supply, which is here, which is that last sell to buy movement you can see on that 2 hourly. So I just think maybe if price is going to want to run, it could do, oops, it could either do something like this and then continue high. And obviously, as it's pushing up, we can then get into better entries as the week goes on. Or you could potentially, hopefully, have something like this where it just comes a bit deeper. But mainly off this 4 hour zone is where I want to be looking for. So potentially just breaking trades down like that could actually maybe be like a really good option in all fairness. And then you can just have this as a swing trade. Let's go. Stops, yeah, just below here, and then entries probably around 50% again. Hold till this low. So yeah, got some nice potential outcomes for this week. But the ones I'm liking the most, UK 100 and pound JPY. We'll just keep an eye on both of those. I was gonna look at ETH and other things, but with the general election, in America next week, not the general election, sorry, the votes, who's going to be the new president. I think the dollar's just going to be a bit difficult next week, so I'm kind of steering away from dollar. But just because one is maybe looking a bit mad, then hopefully this might help some of the other pairs. So if you guys got any questions, please let me know. Feel free to fire away, and I will help everyone as much as I can. All right, guys. Bye bye.